A couple of key races we're following tonight drawing national attention because of the implications they could have for November and control of Congress. News 19's Dustin Lukey spoke with UW-La Crosse political analyst Tim Dale for some context and what to watch for in the months ahead.
Tim Dale, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk first about the Republican race for Wisconsin governor. We've got sort of an interesting race shaping up between the 2020 Republican ticket in that Tim Michels is endorsed by former President Trump, Rebecca Kleefisch endorsed by former Vice President Mike Pence, as well as Ted Cruz there. We've seen a couple of so-called bellwether races across the country. Do we think this is going to be one of the more definitive bellwether races?
Well, it's certainly one that a lot of people around the country are paying attention to. And I think the question about Wisconsin politics to link to national politics is one that a lot of people are going to be watching. And really, to your question, it's a question of how much influence Trump has in the Republican Party. We're actually seeing these races split across the country where Trump endorsed candidates don't necessarily win. Of course, we have all sorts of dynamics in the race in Wisconsin. So it does show that we can't always predict national party or national figures having that big of an influence when you have all sorts of state-based issues that are going on.
And when we talk about voter motivation, how big of a factor is this summer's Roe v. Wade decision going to be in terms of driving maybe Democrats and independents to the poll?
Yeah, it's a really interesting event that happened in terms of a fairly predictable midterm election that was probably going to be harmful for Democrats in all levels of government. And this is one where this really controversial Supreme Court decision essentially pushed the issue to the states, which is one of the reasons why it is going to have an impact on these races. I think with the Roe v. Wade decision, people thought that it was a settled issue, thought that the policy was going to stand. Now it's going to be an issue for governors. It's going to be an issue for state legislatures. So I think that very much calls into question who is going to win some of these elections that we thought may have gone the other way. I also think part of the reason for that is it's going to motivate a lot of voters who may not have necessarily been all that interested in voting. Typically, we see this as a lower turnout election. That turnout may be boosted because people see how state politics can actually matter for issues that they care about.
Yeah, and when we look at the 2018 gubernatorial election in Wisconsin, we saw one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive race ever run in the state. Is cash still king when it comes to seeing, who might be the winner come November?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't really want to be outspent by a lot. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side of this particular issue you want, whether you want a lot of cash coming into the state, there is a lot of national attention being paid to these races. And it's no longer just money from inside Wisconsin. There are political action groups contributing to both sides that come from all over. So I don't think we're going to see the money game slow down anytime soon. And I would imagine that our airwaves are going to be bombarded. Even though this midterm election is not necessarily a presidential election, we may see that level of advertisements within the next month or two.
Yeah, we've got those months ahead still to come. Tim Dale, thanks as always for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up tonight at 10, Tim Dale shares his thoughts on one of the biggest challenges tonight's winners will face in the general election this November. And if you haven't voted, polls in Wisconsin and Minnesota are still open until 8 tonight.